The Great Hall of the Galactic Council had never been this silent. Rows upon rows of alien delegates filled the chamber, their strange eyes fixed on the center platform. Every corner of the galaxy was watching, billions of beings tuned in through live broadcasts. This was history in the making. Humanity's first official meeting with the Galactic Council. Above the council floor, banners of different species swayed in the still air. Their colors glowed faintly, each one representing a world, a people, a history. In the middle, the empty human banner seemed almost too plain. White and blue, clean, untouched. They expected the humans to be nervous, to stumble over their words, maybe give a long, overly formal speech like the other new member species did. But when the floating microphone drifted toward the human delegation, something unexpected happened. Ambassador Evelyn Cross, tall and calm, stepped forward. Her dark suit was sharp, her posture unshaken. The council's lights reflected in her eyes, cold, focused, unreadable. She didn't fidget, she didn't blink, she just smiled. That smile unsettled many in the room. Humans were still considered the unpredictable ones, too emotional, too quick to fight, too quick to forgive. Some species had even voted against Earth joining the council, claiming humans were too dangerous. Others whispered they were too naive. In the upper rows, a reptilian ambassador from the Thrin Empire leaned to his aide and whispered, "Watch this. They'll try too hard to impress us." His aide hissed in agreement. But down on the main floor, Captain Reeve, head of the human security detail, noticed something strange. Across the hall, a shadow moved, not physically, but in the energy of the room. This council chamber was designed to be neutral and balanced. Yet, the moment Evelyn touched the microphone's base, the atmosphere shifted. Evelyn glanced briefly toward her small team, 3 diplomats and 2 aides, all sitting straight. Hands folded, eyes locked on her. They didn't know what she was going to say either. And then, the moment before she was supposed to speak, something happened. Her earpiece crackled. A faint voice whispered in her native tongue. "Ambassador Cross, this is Earth Command. Priority code, Omega Black." Her expression didn't change, but inside her heart skipped a beat. Omega Black was an emergency communication level. Something used only in the most critical moments. The voice continued, slow and deliberate. "Message follows. Say it exactly as written." A thin strip of light unfolded in the air before her, a holographic note transmitted directly to her personal console. She glanced down at it only for a second, and her eyes widened. She had been briefed for weeks on what to say today. Words of peace. Words of cooperation. Careful phrases designed to calm the fears of the more paranoid species. But what she saw on the note was not any of that. Captain Reeve noticed her knuckles tighten slightly around the microphone. A coded warning. Sign only her security detail would recognize. Across the chamber, alien delegates shifted uncomfortably. The silence was stretching too long. Normally, a pause of more than 3 seconds was considered a breach of etiquette, a sign the speaker had lost their place. In the broadcast control room, a dozen alien media crews whispered in their own languages, wondering if the humans were already messing up their big debut. The Thrin ambassador smirked. "Pathetic," he muttered. But Evelyn didn't rush. She just looked up from the note, locked eyes with the entire council, and let the silence grow heavier. Somewhere in the upper tiers, a translator for the Bexary species froze mid-sentence, his hand trembling slightly over the input pad. His 4 eyes widened, as if he'd just realized what the humans were about to say. He whispered in his own tongue, "No, they wouldn't." Every breath in the chamber seemed to stop. The floating microphone pulsed softly, waiting for her first word, and then she smiled again, but this time it wasn't polite. It was the kind of smile that made every instinct in the room whisper danger. She took a deep breath, leaned forward, and spoke the first word. The translator in the back dropped his pad. Gasps echoed across the hall. And somewhere deep in the core of the Galactic Council's secure archives, an ancient warning, one not triggered in over 1,000 years, began flashing red. The galaxy had no idea what had just been set in motion. Fade to black. The words that shook the stars. The chamber was silent. Not the normal kind of silence, but the heavy kind. The one where you could almost hear people thinking. Every alien delegate, every translator, every watching citizen across the galaxy leaned forward, waiting. Ambassador Evelyn Cross held the small slip of paper in her hand. It was barely longer than her thumb, with 4 words written in neat block letters. She read them again, just to make sure she wasn't hallucinating. It made no sense. It made every kind of sense. The coded message from Earth was authentic. The encryption was unmistakable. It had been sent through official Terran channels, marked with the highest clearance level. That meant only one thing. This was not a mistake. To her right, her aide, Lieutenant Mark Rivas, gave her a puzzled look. "Evelyn." "What's wrong?" he whispered. She didn't answer. If she told him what was written, he'd react, and the alien cameras would catch it. The microphone floated closer. A smooth sphere of polished silver. It hovered in front of her mouth. The universal translator embedded inside, ready to carry her voice to every corner of the galaxy. Around the chamber, alien representatives shifted uncomfortably in their seats. The Dravani ambassador tapped her claws against the desk. The massive insectoid commander from the Cathar Collective tilted his head, his mandibles clicking.
Act Ace.
And at the very back, the Varn Syndicate spymaster didn't blink once. All expecting the same thing, a nervous greeting. A long list of diplomatic platitudes, maybe even a small joke to break the tension. Instead, Evelyn leaned forward slightly. Her heartbeat slowed. Her lips parted. She spoke. The translators hesitated, as if the machines themselves needed a second to process the meaning. Then her voice rolled out in hundreds of alien tongues, at once, clear and calm. The words were simple, and they made the entire chamber freeze. For a full 5 seconds, nobody moved. Not even the background hum of whispers returned. It was as if someone had pressed pause on the galaxy. Then the reactions began. Some alien skin flushed in colors of alarm. Others turned to their aides, whispering furiously. A few stood up outright, their body language showing open panic. The Varn spymaster's lip curled. The Cathar commanders' mandibles stopped clicking entirely, and the Dravani ambassador stared at Evelyn with wide, unblinking eyes. Mark was still frozen beside her. "Did you just—" She raised a hand. "Not now." From somewhere above, the booming voice of the council speaker echoed. "Ambassador Cross. Would you care to explain the meaning of your words?" Evelyn smiled politely. "No explanation required. Earth stands by its statement."
That was
not the answer they wanted. One of the reptilian delegates slammed his hand on the desk. "This is a declaration. Do you understand the precedent you've just set?" Her smile didn't waver. "Yes, perfectly. Across the galaxy, billions of citizens watching the live broadcast began sending messages, searching for translations, demanding answers. In the shadowy corners of the galaxy, military leaders began convening in secret. Something had shifted, something permanent. And deep inside her, Evelyn knew exactly why Earth had sent those words and what they meant for the future. Just didn't know if the galaxy would survive it. The council speaker's voice trembled as he spoke again. "Ambassador, I will give you one chance to retract that statement before we record it in the official archives." Evelyn looked up at the massive banners hanging above the chamber, each one representing a species, a homeworld, a history. She thought of Earth's banner, freshly added, still strange and new among the others. "No retraction," she said softly. Somewhere in the chamber, a delegate stormed out. Another one activated a private comm, probably speaking to their government. Evelyn could almost feel the heat of all the eyes on her. Mark finally leaned closer, his voice low. "Evelyn, do you even know what those words will start?" She kept her gaze forward. "I do, and apparently, so does Earth." But there was one question still burning in her mind. Why now? Had Earth chosen this exact moment to speak those words to the galaxy? And more importantly, what was coming that no one else could see? The council chamber had never emptied so quickly in its history. Normally, After a diplomatic address, delegates lingered to exchange pleasantries, strike quiet deals, or gossip over cups of steaming liquid from half a dozen worlds. But today, they scattered like prey animals sensing a predator. Ambassador Evelyn Cross stood at the center. Still under the harsh white glow of the chamber lights, her words echoing in her mind. No one was supposed to panic this fast, were they? Around her, aides hurried after their superiors. Translators scrambled to clarify meanings, and security drones zipped overhead, scanning for threats. Lieutenant Mark Rivas leaned close again. Evelyn, every single one of them is either terrified or furious. She didn't answer, because terrified and furious were exactly the two reactions she had expected. High above, in the balcony where only the most privileged observers were allowed, a shadow moved. Evelyn spotted the gleam of a single optical lens focusing on her, a spy drone, but not one that belonged to the council. It was watching her. No, it was watching for her. Far from the chamber, in the glittering skyline of the capital planet, Sithra Prime, encrypted messages exploded across the interstellar network. Entire governments were already awake, their war councils pulling up files on Terran threat assessment. The Dravani homeworld sent a single chilling communique to all its military fleets. Prepare contingency plans. Assume hostile intent. The Cathar Collective ordered their fastest couriers to carry an urgent summons to their warlord, bypassing all official council protocol. Even the aloof Varn Syndicate, notorious for their shadow dealings, sent an encrypted offer to discuss mutual interests with two of Earth's rivals. Mark checked his datapad, his face paling. It's everywhere. Every broadcast channel, every news feed, they're replaying your words on a loop. Evelyn took a slow breath. He turned to her sharply. Good, Evelyn. Half the galaxy thinks you've just declared war. She kept her voice calm. The other half will think twice before crossing us. But privately, her thoughts were far from calm. She hadn't been briefed on why Earth had chosen those exact words, only that her orders were absolute. No improvisation. No deviation. Say them. Stand by them. Somewhere out there on the blue and white sphere she still called home, someone had decided it was time for humanity to step out of the shadows. But the timing, that was the part she didn't understand. Why now? And why did it feel like Earth knew something the rest of the galaxy didn't? A soft chime echoed from her wrist communicator. It was a secure channel, the kind that bypassed Council surveillance entirely. She pressed it to her ear. Cross here. The voice on the other end was low, almost a whisper. Ambassador, return to your quarters immediately. This is bigger than you think. She recognized the voice, and the fact that he was calling meant things were already moving. Mark noticed her expression change. Bad news. She didn't answer. Instead, she turned on her heel and walked out, ignoring the flurry of alien eyes tracking her departure, because somewhere deep in the diplomatic sector, behind blast-proof walls and layers of electronic shielding, a truth was waiting. For her, a truth that might explain why Earth had chosen those words, or prove that humanity had just stepped into a game it couldn't survive. The message. Behind the words, the human diplomatic quarters on Sithra Prime were not luxurious. They were functional reinforced walls, minimal decor, and every piece. A furniture bolted down in case of atmospheric tremors or sabotage. Ambassador Evelyn Cross stepped inside, and the heavy door slid shut behind her with a hiss. The moment it locked, a hidden layer of soundproof shielding activated. Mark followed her in, still demanding answers. Evelyn, what's going on? Who was on the come? She didn't reply. Instead, she walked to the center table, pressed her palm against a scanner, and triggered the black-level security mode. The lights dimmed, and the wall projectors lit up with the seal of the Terran Strategic Command. A figure appeared, an older man in a dark uniform, face lined with years of sleepless nights. His voice was quiet, but carried weight. Ambassador Cross, you've stirred the hornet's nest. Goodmark frowned. Admiral Kincaid? With respect, what exactly was in that message you ordered her to deliver? Because the entire galaxy, as the Admiral cut him off. The words you spoke, Ambassador, were an activation phrase, Evelyn blinked. Activation? For what? Kincaid leaned forward in his chair. For Operation Iron Veil. The name meant nothing to her. Mark's brows furrowed. Never heard of it. You weren't supposed to, Kincaid said. It's been in planning for 30 years. It's waiting for the right moment. Evelyn felt her pulse quicken. And that moment is now. Yes, the Admiral said grimly. Because 3 days ago, our deep-range probes picked up something inbound. Something fast. It's not from any known civilization in the Council. Mark's datapad beeped. He glanced at the incoming file and froze. The readings were unlike anything he had seen. Power levels off the charts. Speed that defied. Known propulsion. Contact in. 47 hours, Kincaid continued. We don't know if it's a scout, a weapon, or something worse. But when it arrives, we need the galaxy looking at us, not at what's coming. Evelyn felt the pieces clicking into place. You wanted the Council distracted, fighting among themselves. The Admiral gave a small nod. Exactly. Your words were meant to spark fear, suspicion, and chaos. That way no one notices Earth preparing until it's too late. But you're playing with fire, Mark said. If they think we're a threat, they'll unite against us. Kincaid's eyes narrowed. Better that they fear us than ignore us. Fear makes them cautious. The projection flickered slightly. Even the secure channel was feeling the strain of all the scrambling signals across the capital. One more thing, Kincaid said, lowering his voice. When the visitor arrives, you're not to engage. You're to watch, record, and be ready to move when we give the word. The connection cut before Evelyn could ask another question. The room was silent except for the faint hum of the air filters. Mark broke it first. We've just told the galaxy we're dangerous, to hide the fact something else is coming. Evelyn met his eyes. Whatever it is, even the Council isn't ready for it. Neither of them noticed the small surveillance bug hidden deep. In the ceiling, one that didn't belong to the Council. Or to Earth. Somebody else already knew. The Council capital never slept. From space, the surface of Sithra Prime shimmered with endless lines of golden lights, like a sea of stars draped over a living world. But tonight, those lights began to blink out. Not all at once, but in patches, like darkness was slowly eating the planet. Alarms screamed across the city. Emergency broadcasts in dozens of alien tongues echoed through the streets. In the human quarters, Ambassador Evelyn Cross was already awake, staring at the holographic display on her wall. A massive, irregular shape had appeared on the edge of the planet's orbital sensor range. Mark stumbled in, still pulling on his jacket. Tell me that's a glitch. Evelyn shook her head. It's real. And it's not slowing down. The Council chamber was chaos. Representatives shouted over each other, their voices rising into shrill, panicked tones. Some demanded the use of planetary shields. Others screamed for evacuation. A few wanted to open fire immediately. Above them, the massive holographic feed showed the object in real time. It wasn't a ship in the traditional sense. No smooth hull, no visible engines. It looked grown, not built. Its black surface shimmered with strange shifting patterns. As if liquid shadows crawled over it, Counselor Yaren, a thin insectoid with trembling antennae, finally found his voice. That is not one of ours. Not from any race in the archives. A dozen sensor drones were launched toward the object. None returned. Their feeds cut off the instant they crossed a certain invisible line. Mark leaned toward Evelyn, whispering, That's not technology we've seen before. That's... He stopped himself. She didn't need him to finish. She was thinking the same thing. It's something else entirely. Then the object moved. Not like a ship changing course. It flowed as if the entire mass shifted forward at once. In a blink, it closed the distance to the outermost defense. Satellites. The satellites opened fire automatically, beams of energy lancing out. But the beams bent around the black surface like light curving in a mirage. A heartbeat later, all 3 satellites went dark. The chamber erupted into screams. And then, something even stranger happened. The object stopped, completely. For a long, silent moment, It simply hovered above the planet like a shadow that didn't belong to the sun. Every species on the council held its breath. Evelyn's wrist buzzed. She glanced down at the screen. Single text from Admiral Kincaid. Now you'll see why we made them afraid of us. The black mass began to descend. But it didn't head toward the council's military command centers. It headed straight for the human embassy. The words that changed everything, the black shape loomed over the human embassy like a storm cloud made solid. From the streets below, alien citizens scattered in every direction. Some dropped to their knees. Others pointed devices into the air, recording what they thought might be their last moments. Inside the embassy, the human security team moved with eerie calm. No shouting, no panic, just silent, efficient motions. As they sealed the windows and activated strange metal pillars along the walls, Evelyn Cross stood in the center of the atrium, staring up through the glass dome at the shadow above. Mark was beside her, whispering in disbelief. "It's not attacking." Evelyn didn't answer. Her wrist buzzed again, the same. Secure channel from Admiral Kincaid. You know what to say. The pillars inside the embassy hummed a deep, resonant sound that seemed to settle into everyone's bones. A faint shimmer spread upward, forming a translucent dome over the entire building. Outside, the black mass shifted, parts of it peeling away into thin, tendril-like shapes. They writhed in the air, reaching toward the dome, and then froze. Billions of eyes across the galaxy watched the broadcast feed. The council chamber was silent. The streets were silent. Even the alien news anchors stopped speaking mid-sentence. Evelyn stepped forward, right into the holographic broadcast field that projected her image to every viewer. Her voice was calm, steady. "We warned you once." You laughed. The tendrils of the black mass twitched. "You called us weak, unpredictable, too emotional." A deep vibration rolled through the ground, and for a moment the black shape shrank back, as though it understood her. "But you forgot one thing." She raised her hand, fingers curled slightly. The pillars glowed brighter. The shimmer above the embassy pulsed. "We don't bluff." The black mass rippled, its surface boiling with chaotic motion. And then, impossibly, it split apart. A blinding light poured from within. Not an explosion, but something like a sunrise bursting through a nightmare. Alien sensors screamed warnings. Whatever was inside that thing wasn't just energy, it was alive, and it was afraid. The shape retreated, pulling away from the embassy, then the city, then the planet itself. A dared the council chamber erupted. But this time, not with panic. With shock, with awe, and, in some voices, fear. Evelyn looked directly into the broadcast lens. "That was your only warning." Then she cut the transmission. In the silence that followed, Mark finally found. His voice, "What was that thing?" Evelyn allowed herself the smallest of smiles, something that thought it could scare us. Now it knows better. Above them, the stars returned to the sky. But in the minds of every being who had watched, one truth remained: humanity's first words had not been peace. They had been a promise.